teenagers are moody creatures, aren't they? Yeah. And if your teenager has some upside days, they're among the happy subpopulation.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. If they have no happy days, they're probably statistically normal. Certainly not at all unusual. The child tends to reject the premise that they're managing pain. That doesn't mean the parent should walk around stupidly thinking, oh, that doesn't fit my child's profile. You can read this material somewhat carefully, and when you're discussing major depression, you're really restricting the conversation to the most severe form. The less severe forms of depression are even more common among adolescents. So if it's an estimated 3 million aged 12 to 17 have one major episode in the past year, I think what we're talking about, that the number represents 12.5 of the population, 12 to 17, I think what we're talking about in terms of those impacted by depression of various levels of severity and duration, my guess is we're talking more than 50%. And a quick glance at the graph shows the much higher relative incidence among female adolescents. But you need to keep in mind that throughout the lifespan, males are notorious for underreporting their depressions. So I think that's a deflated number in terms of the incidence among teenage males. And now we look at anxiety statistics, and by the way, if any of these graphics throughout the course of the video go by too quickly, do just pause the video and then you can examine them more closely. The stats on anxiety are also quite alarming. If you look at this graph, you can see when they say the lifetime prevalence is 25%, what they mean is 1 out of 4 over the course of their adolescence will experience a severe enough anxiety, form of anxiety, to be noteworthy or diagnosable. And then there's about a 6% of that population that gets diagnosed with severe anxiety. Again, the statistics are alarming. And I know that flies in the face what everybody else is saying. They tried crack, now their chemistry's changed and they're hooked. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. I've been doing this too long. I just don't see evidence of that. There's an identifiable stressor the child's dealing with, even if they can't put it into words. I'll give you an example of this. Everybody knows if you're the victim of bullying, you're going to be psychologically damaged, you're going to be wounded, right? And 2 years after some severe bullying, the fact that a kid might join the rough crowd and start using drugs, we wouldn't be that surprised. We can sort of see the action, reaction, the cause and effect connections there. But what if they weren't the direct victim of bullying, but they saw a lot of it and they were kind of vicariously bullied? Like they walked around intimidated and not wanting to, be seen by the rough crowd, and they fit in with their little misfits just to, stay under the radar. And, so the bullying that they weren't directly victimized by, and so they don't see themselves as the victim of bullying, victimize them, and no one gets it, no one understands it. the bullying indirectly ruined their middle school experience. And here they are, young adolescents. Oh, so this is the world. I gotta show up at school every day and try and not be myself and stay under the radar, because otherwise I'm gonna get picked on like the other kids, and God forbid I live with anxiety about that. If you talk to a youngster that way, they're not necessarily complaining about their anxiety. They're actually grateful they weren't the victims of bullying directly. Oh, good, my child's grateful because they went through middle school and ducked and dodged all the bullying. You see what I'm saying? It's very subtle. Yeah, but I shouldn't feel sorry for myself because Billy was, bullied every day. Right, isn't Billy a friend of yours? Yeah. So you actually were vicariously bullied every day. Oh, I never bullied that.
Once removed.
Yeah, exactly, once removed. So I'm just using that as an example. They'll report to you they weren't bullied and they're grateful, and so the parents checking that box like, okay, bullying wasn't an issue. What else troubled you? Bullying's an issue. Even if it didn't happen to you directly. What else is an issue? Trying to fit in, figuring out what sex is about, dealing with mom and dad and their arguments or their marital tension. My siblings, they suck on both ends, the older ones and the younger ones, whatever. There's a lot going on in the adolescent's world. A lot of it is painful. And a lot of it becomes unmanageable for them, and so they walk around anxious and or depressed, and they become a ripe candidate for the pain-relieving payoff of finding the right drug. And there you have, the bond of dependency. And this is psychological dependency, not physical. If they go ahead and use a drug that creates physical dependency, you've got psychological dependency and physical dependency. And that's a dual bonding that's pretty difficult to break. Strong, well-fortified adults have a hard time breaking those bonds. Immature, vulnerable youngsters, just getting started in life, in the real world, in the wake up, it's not Disney World world, they're challenged beyond belief. They go through 4 or 5 years of their adolescence that way, and then they get into young adulthood, they've got the ball and chain, it just continues. They have a career going on as an addict, whatever else they're doing in life. And usually your career as an addict tends to take center stage and ruin everything. And it doesn't always. The functional addicts, they have a 3-ring circus. They got their addiction going on, they got their work going on, they got their home life going on. It's certainly not ideal because of the third ring of the circus, but they're functional. The adolescent is very, very vulnerable on so many different levels, to influence, peer influence, to the impulse of the day. I'm having a bad Wednesday, so somebody says smoke crack. I said no, 100 days in a row. I'm having a bad day. They say, you want to go? I say, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go smoke it. Think back to your own teenage years. How impulsive were you? How easy it was for certain peers to talk you into doing crazy stuff. What were you thinking? Well, I kind of wasn't thinking. The assumption that I can't control, the truth is the best option. The child, the youngster, your child, may not have access to the truth. If you have a sense they know what's upsetting them but they don't share it with you, you have a rapport problem. You know they know the truth, they know the truth, they're not discussing it with you, there's some rapport problem. You don't have a good enough rapport with your youngster. We do a whole tape about rapport building, and that's important, and we'll get to that at some point, so stay tuned. If on the other hand you feel like you have rapport, you ask the questions and your child doesn't know the answers, you have a search challenge. How do we find the truth here?
Okay.
Yeah, they're not, you're not necessarily selling anything, right? But when it comes time, to help, and I have a definition, and I have a plan, and I have a formula for what you need in life, there's a sale. that's pending. I want to make the sale. I want them to buy in, right? So the rapport that I have with them is sort of critical. And this is where I came up with the idea of benevolent aggression. Benevolent aggression. That sounds, oxymoronic. That sounds like a contradiction. But think about those moments in life where you're with a loved one, and they're doing the stupidest imaginable shit, possible, and you need to slap them in the face, like, wake up! That's benevolent aggression.
I do that with our clients.
This is necessary as a tool in this field. If you can't bring it, you're going to miss a lot of opportunities to help. But how to do that, when to do that, that's the art, that's the intuitive part of it. And mom and dad out there, God bless you, you probably don't intuitively know a lot about it. And again, just to sort of digress a tiny little bit, most of us are trying to forget our adolescence. Or as we look back on it, we've done some revisionist history, editing, so that we either remember the good points or we isolate the bad points. We tell a different story. But it's amazing how many people you ask, would you like to go back to that period of time? And even though, we're taking 30 years off your life to go back and be 17, so many people say no. Because they actually still recognize at a gut level that that time sucked, right? Vulnerable, confused, alone, can't figure it out, don't know who your friends and enemies are, have this big question about your place in the scheme of things. Are you going to make it? Do you have a good enough body? What are your skills and talents? What are your challenges? If that many people would say no, what it says is there is this kind of underlying recognition that that was a very difficult, painful time. Try to remember that when you talk to your child. Most parents make this mistake. I should throw this out there. They try to list for their child all the good shit they have and why they should be grateful and whatnot. And that's like the lamest interaction imaginable if you're on the receiving end of it. What parents don't realize is what that does is it implicitly invalidates all the pain that they are experiencing. You've got this and you've got that, and you're not you weren't born in the third world, you got a roof over your head, and okay, shame them for feeling the vulnerability and the pain that they do have. Anybody out there think that would be good for rapport building? I mean, stop the communication right there. I'm not going to say shit to you after this. And you meant well. You're trying to get them to see the glass is half full. And what you didn't realize is you shamed them and invalidated them. So they're not talking to you. What do you have to complain about? That's your parental frustration and contempt. You can tell me anything. Well, I may have the ability, that doesn't mean I want to. Why should I'm 17, I'm 22, why should I come to my parents with my pain? I look at them, what are they doing with their pain? If there's addiction of some kind that's obvious in the adult in the household, the parents in the household, who the hell are they to talk to me? I mean, the hypocrisy screams at you. I just do a different drug. It's not genetics. It's buying and selling. I'm going to sell the idea of sobriety that I obviously don't buy myself. Okay, that's not a great endorsement. You don't even buy it. So you're dismissed. That whole message is dismissed. Now it's only a question of which drug I might use. not will I. Of course I will. That's why it runs in families. And okay, well, what about the teetotaler? Yeah, every once in a while, you guys made drinking look so disgusting, and you never had any guilt about it. And I have nothing but disgust and potential guilt about it. I'll never drink. Right? I'm adamant. I'm passionate about not doing that. It's ironic, a lot of those people do develop compulsive type problems. Maybe not of the addictive kind, or substance-based kind. Right? Like eating or something, right? So, or success, compulsively achieving. Those people can be a pain in the ass if they're your parents, right? So we have the idea of, I can't change anybody. We have the idea of building rapport and recognizing how important that is. And then we have permission to engage in benevolent aggression. And I don't mean physical aggression. Obviously, I'm not talking about slapping. I'm talking about, yelling and screaming and working yourself up for the sake of the exorcism of addressing the diseased devil that took over their mind and their body. And that, if we could disembody that and put it in front of you, you'd want to shoot it. As long as it didn't hurt the actual host, my child. Right? And in fact, as they look to recover, part of what you're hoping for is they recognize they want that thing to get killed off too, in whatever fashion is valid or legitimate. Right? That's the idea we're selling them. So again, if you're a hypocrite, because it's not good for the goose, it's not good for the gander. If you're not doing it, you're not selling it. So to all those parents out there that are smoking and drinking and doing your adult version of addiction, trying to get your kid off of heroin, clean up your own act. I know that's really expecting a lot, but your commitment to your recovery could be the thing that inspires your kid far more than 8 million lectures, or throw them into a rehab. They see you commit to it and get it done. Like, oh, this is the family legacy now, or this is what we do, or yeah, mom and dad are much less hypocritical today than they were yesterday. My parents wanted me to stop cigarette smoking while they were both cigarette smokers. I learned to smoke underground, I learned to hide it. I knew they weren't happy with it, but they couldn't sell me the idea. They didn't buy it themselves. You go to buy a used car, guy's telling you how great it is. Would you buy this car for this price? Honestly, not that he's going to tell you the truth, but that would be a good question to ask. Would you sell it to your mother this way? Yeah, I hate my mother. Exactly. That's what I thought. In the end, it may seem at first glance that we're not offering a lot, and I'm not suggesting I'm done here. We are going to pause. There's some power in what I'm suggesting. There's not the infinite power to control the other person's mind. But every really good salesperson knows, like, there's some strategy they'll get it done. And maybe I don't know that one yet. I'm not gifted. I'm not the one to sell it to this person. I know that we could make a sale. And then you're good at it, so you realize you pull rabbits out of your hat and things out of your left ear to throw out there. Like, amazing sometimes it actually is the thing that you intuitively know to try this, that, the other thing. And how many tricks do you have in your bag of tricks? Hundreds? Yeah, quite a few. And you go with your reliable ones, but it doesn't work. One size doesn't fit all. I got to go somewhere else. Including, the paradoxical trick, which is walk away. All right. You'll buy when you're ready. You
It's
call me.
called the takeaway.
Yeah, call the takeaway, yeah. So I mean, what we're doing is we're selling parents who we know love their children on this idea of, really making the sale of sobriety and commitment to well-being and commitment to getting help at, whatever level that exists for the youngster. That's what they're selling. There's a lot for them to learn. There's a lot we can teach them, even though some of it's subtle.